Welcome to our 5 on 5. Pleased to be joined today by Lieutenant Kerry Curtis of the Medford Police Department, also the commander of the SWAT team. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So, how many years have you been involved with SWAT?
I've been on the SWAT team since 2008.
Okay, and we're talking today about soft targets, or kind of what happened in Las Vegas and what people can do in scenarios like that. What would you advise anyone if they're caught in public where there's a shooting, a bombing, anything of that sort?
You know, it's a difficult question because each situation is so different. You know, when we teach this and we train this and talk about it, it's really the main part is protecting yourself, protecting those that you're with, your family. So we talk about run, hide, fight. Run if you have the opportunity, if you have the means to get away. You've identified where a shooter might be or where the assailant might be. Get away. Get away if you can. If you can't get away, we encourage you to find a hiding place, whether it's in a building, in a room, in an open-air venue. It's obviously more difficult, like we saw in Las Vegas. But we want you to run. We want you to hide. And then we talk about fight, and that fight is really a personal decision that each person is going to have to make on whether they want to intervene. If they're faced with the opportunity to intervene, that personal choice. So run, hide, fight if you have to.
Sure, okay. And what about when people try and lock doors? You know, they're trying to hide, of course. A lot of times we've seen in several cases where shooters, they find a locked door or something, that means they're trying to go in there. Any advice you can give for people caught in that scenario? You
know, when you're behind that locked door, you have a little bit of protection. But doors can be breached. And if the assailant is motivated enough to where they want to get in through that door, you're faced with that final decision, which is now you have to fight for your life. And we see in the video of Run, Hide, Fight that they're using a fire extinguisher or a chair. When you're face to face with the assailant, you really have no options. You get that fight or flight natural response, but when there's no place to go, you have to fight your way out of that.
All right, very good. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Much more in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to our 5 on 5. Again, we're here with Lieutenant Kerry Curtis from the Medford Police Department, also the commander of the SWAT team there. I know as SWAT, Columbine, you know, the shooting at the school back in the late 90s, changed the police approach to active shooter scenarios. Can you explain that a little bit for us?
Prior to that, there really wasn't a protocol for an active shooter response. And not only did it change it for SWAT teams in the tactical side, but it changed it for all officers. A lot of times when we have these events, and we've seen them across the country, it's not waiting for the SWAT team to get there. It's each individual officer, when the first officers respond, forming a group to essentially find the assailant and eliminate him or her as a threat. So Columbine really began law enforcement in thinking about how are we going to respond to these events when they happen. For our department, our SWAT team hosts active shooter training every year. We train everybody within the department in scenario-based training, where we provide scenarios, and they work through that from an initial response clear through the conclusion of moving role players out. And you know, it's a long process. It's a tedious process, and it's one that we have to be very thorough in, both in our response and then in the aftermath of it.
I know we've seen you guys train at the mall, we've seen you train in office buildings, but I got to imagine, yeah, going room to room, that's something that takes some time, as you said, tedious, but that, I guess, can be done anywhere, whether it's the mall or something like an office here.
Yeah, and really with the scenario-based training, it makes it as realistic as possible, where you're very engaged in the training, because not only the importance of it, but our role players do a great job. They make it as realistic as possible. And you know, although we haven't had something like that happen here, we have to train for it. We have to be prepared for it, and that's something that our department takes very seriously, is being prepared for those events that could happen at any time.
Yeah, you never know. Good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Right.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.